Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show, Thursday, August 15th edition. Exciting day around the NBA because the schedule's coming out. In fact, less than 2 hours from when we're recording this, the schedule's coming out. I know most of you watching right now, you're the hardcore NBA fans, same as us. So you're doing the same thing we're going to do. As soon as the schedule comes out, you're planning out what your life is going to look like all the way through June because we're going to be keeping an eye on all the important dates on the NBA calendar. So I can't wait. That means that tomorrow we're going to have not scheduled nonsense, but schedule nonsense on our live show. We'll be able to look through everything going on in the NBA schedule. We'll talk about that, but we also have some other stuff to get into on today's show. We got to talk about some roster moves around the NBA, what teams are up to right now. So plenty to talk about. Before we dive into everything, make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on those notifications. Great way to help us out. And don't forget to hit that like button as well. Podcast listeners, follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Keith, we are color coordinated today, unintentionally, but we're rocking the blue today and feeling good and ready for the schedule to come out.
Yeah, looking good. Not feeling blue at all. Like happy day,
Yeah.
right? We get the schedule. We can start planning things out, mapping out what the year is going to look like. The first thing I go to now that like the Christmas games and the opening games, those have been out there. Those leaked days in advance. First thing I go to, what are the Celtics and Lakers playing? That's the first thing I look for each year on the schedule. That's the kind of two highlight games that I look for, assuming it's not a Christmas matchup or opening night or something like that. And then from there, I start looking, I go to MLK Day to see what the day looks like because they do games all day long on MLK, which is always a fun day. Then I get into kind of the logistical stuff. How many matinee games are there? Who's playing them in them and when? Yeah. How many back-to-backs with travel? How many 3 and 4 game, 3 and 4 night games each team has? Longest road trip, when it is. And then just weird quirks like who has home and homes, who has those baseball series, those kind of things. Those are the things that I start to dive into and really get into. But yeah, man, I can't wait. It's really nice because you can really like start to sit down and just map out how the rest of the year is going to go into next year and into next spring and summer and all that, and get a really good sense of when all the games are going to be going.
You know something I never understood? Why are they called home and homes? When they're being played, like we call them home and home when it's like, let's say it's the Suns playing the Spurs and they're playing them 2 games in a row and it's one game is in Phoenix, one game is in San Antonio. Why do we call that home and home? What, isn't it home and away? You're just playing the same team. I've never understood that.
Yeah, I think it's because it's both teams have a home game. They each get a home and home. Whereas like home and away, that's just how the schedule is, I think. Right. I don't know. That's a good question. I've never really given it that much thought.
And it's just one of those weird things that it's always stuck when people say home and home. I'm like, but it's not. But I guess it's because I always look at it from the perspective of one specific team. Anyway, sure. This is a tangent here, but I do the same thing.
It's NBA August. That's why we're
that's what it is.
August topics.
During August, I also have to restart our show multiple times because I say insane things, and that happens, and then we die of laughter for multiple minutes. That was the case with today's show, but so I look for those key matchups on the schedule. But I'll tell you what I also look for, Keith, and I know you guys are kind of past this phase with your daughter. I look at Halloween because I want to see, do I get to go trick-or-treating with my daughter? What does that look like? I look at those big holiday dates, things of that nature. And then I also usually look, because look, let's face it, the All-Star game is not that fun. I usually try to take at least a little bit of a vacation or a break during the actual All-Star break. And so I look to see, what does that look like? How long is the period of time for the actual All-Star break? And then figure that out. So those are some key things that I look at on the schedule. Of course, looking for those marquee matchups. And then there's the various sites and people out there that crunch all the numbers and give you exactly what you're talking about. The number of back-to-backs, the bane of my existence, not Desmond Bane, but the more Batman bane of my existence, I guess, is the road back-to-back, because those are a backbreaker. Like that, the Batman, it's all tying together there. It's all tying together. The road back-to-backs. I feel like you just don't get the same quality of play when you've got a team that has to play 2 games within a 24-hour period and they have to travel in between. So I keep an eye out for those games as well. All some key things that I look for as soon as that schedule comes out. And you're right. Yeah, we already have a few of the big days leaked out. Christmas Day, opening day, a few other games here and there. But I can't wait for the whole thing to come out so we can just start kind of skimming through everything and analyzing it.
Yeah, it's also nice too. I don't like this whole drip process of the way the schedule starts coming out. And
Yeah.
obviously, I mean the reporters, they're doing their job. I have no issue with them doing it, but I would just prefer. I get it, Christmas
Give me the
opening
fire
night, I'm
hose.
fine with that. But like, just then give me the rest of it. So I'm glad
Yeah.
today we'll have it. I'll be able to start tonight plugging games in. I put every single game on my calendar, all 1,200 plus games, just so I have them there and I kind of know what I'm looking for. And then I just kind of can really start to map things out. So I'll start that process that generally takes a week or so, not of steady work, obviously, but I just
Sure.
I'll do like a week here and a week there, and then just get it all done. And those will be in there, and then I'm ready to go. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I also have a color code scheme that's just madness because no one would ever understand it but me. No, but it's partially how I can make sure I'm seeing each team
Yeah.
approximately an equal amount of times throughout the course of the season. So I try to do that, and I have that scheme going on. So I start to map that out, and then I change it as the year goes along. Because if a team, say trade deadline, really they give up and they trade for a whole bunch of guys on expiring contracts that aren't going to be there the next season, I don't spend as much time with them in the second half of the year because it's not time
Right.
well spent. I'll spend more time on other teams I'm trying to learn about. So yeah, but man, it's just nice. It's I think people know by now I thrive on routine and organization, and I can't wait until all this comes together.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, exciting. So that's coming out in just a bit here. And again, we'll break it down tomorrow. We'll talk about some of our key games when we do Front Office Friday, which is our live show, which we do each week. By the way, it's a lot of fun. Come hang out with us. We usually shoot for right around lunchtime or so on the East Coast. So we do our live show. People get to come in around their lunchtime at work. Maybe you're on your lunch break. Maybe you're pretending to be working and you listen to or you watch our show. It's a good time. So come hang out with us Front Office Friday. We'll make the announcement tomorrow on social, exactly what time we're going to go. So make sure you guys follow us, by the way, on social media at Trevor_Lane for me over on X, at Keith Smith NBA for Keith. All right, let's
Let
get
me
into some
say
of the.
this too,
Yeah.
Trevor, real quick before we get into
All
our
right.
next topics. We talked a little bit in one of our recent shows about how like it's just a slower period, so we may not be here every day, Monday through
Right.
Friday. We will be here Front Office Fridays unless you hear different. And if it's different, we may move it to Front Office Friday on a Thursday or something like that. But we will have a live show for you every week, barring something really unexpected. Just so everybody knows that. And I am going to, now that we're probably maybe next week, I'm hoping, but we'll be like 2 weeks into school here, and then we can start to get our own routine down. And I'll be able to get
Mhm.
back into doing the front office overtime shows at night, which I have a lot of fun with. Because I know, again, like you said earlier, if you're watching this show, you're a hardcore NBA fan, and you probably want to talk NBA instead of the kind of just avalanche of football coverage that's coming
Right.
all day, every day over the next month plus here as we get ramp up to the start of or I guess 2 weeks plus as we ramp up to the start of the NFL season. So I'll be doing those again, but we'll be here every Friday or Friday ish for the live front office Friday show. That won't change.
Yeah, if you're following NFL at all right now, you've got Brandon Ayuk trade, Kevin Durant trade rumors, and Dames of Our Lives are Spider-Man memeing, and
Right.
that's the situation going going on there. But all right, let's get into some of the news around the NBA. Patty Mills winds up signing with the Jazz. Interesting to me that the Jazz go in the. I mean, like you always want adults in the locker room and that sort of thing. But interesting that they turn to a veteran guard for what is mostly a young team that is looking to build for the future. What do you think the thought process is here for Utah?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think it's let's get another veteran in here. I think the Jazz intention is to continue to explore trades and let's see what happens. We know not with marketing. He's off the table now for through the trade deadline. But I think it is whether that is Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, maybe John Collins, Walker Kessler. I think they're still open to looking at bad other trades. And I think for them, they looked at it, hey, minimum contract, we're nowhere near the tax. So yeah, let's bring Mills in. And if it doesn't work out or we need the roster spot or whatever it is, we'll just move on. We'll go in a different direction. So this is kind of signing. Why not get another, like you said, another grown up in the room, another guy that can help a young roster. Mills showed at least at the end part of the Olympics, he's got plenty left in the tank. He struggled a little bit early in the Olympics and really kind of had a very nondescript season last year. Did not even look good when the Heat picked him up late in the year. But I think we're in a spot where, maybe he comes in and helps them, or if nothing else, he's a locker room presence for them and they can figure it out. And if he plays really well, he's on a minimum deal. They could trade him for, a second round pick or something by the trade deadline if he looks really good.
Yeah, if he plays well enough, and who knows where the Jazz will be. Maybe they find themselves as like a play-in team or something like that in the Western Conference. They certainly could. But if they don't, and they make some moves to maybe take a step back at the trade deadline, this is on a minimum contract. It would be pretty easy if there's a team out there looking that wants to contend for the Jazz to do right by Patty Mills and move him along to a team that's ready to go try to win. So again, that minimum contract provides a lot of flexibility. And in the meantime, for however long he's with the Utah Jazz, and who knows, maybe he finishes the year there, but however long he's with the Jazz, he gives you that veteran leadership, that mentor, that guy that can help show some of these younger guys on the team what it means to be a pro and all of that. So not a bad signing at all for the Jazz, especially on a minimum. Basically, anybody on a minimum contract, I'm not going to have any issues with, but especially a guy like Patty Mills, who's had a really solid career in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a for Kim, this is a chance to kind of keep it going. And like you said, for the Jazz, if they find themselves being better than expected, you have some veteran depth now on your bench in the point guard line. I do not expect Patty Mills to play a lot for them. They've got Keontae George, Colin Sexton, and Jordan Clarkson. That's kind of their three-guard rotation. They drafted Isaiah Collier. I think they'd like to work him into the mix as well at some point. So I don't know how much we'll see Patty Mills play, but for now, he's in Utah, and like we covered, on a minimum deal, you can't ever really get mad at one of those.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So Patty Mills finds a new home. Meanwhile, Joe Harris calls it a career. Joe Harris is retiring from the NBA. He was I believe we talked about it the other day, about how that Nets team, they unearthed some diamonds in the rough and they were able to kind of build up. And then ultimately they kind of ditched that plan when they went and they got Kevin Durant and they got Kyrie. And for a little while, though, that Nets team was kind of that fun, young upstart team in the wake of that the trade with Boston, and after they moved on past Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and all those players. And they were able to kind of scrap together this lineup. And Joe Harris was one of the guys that they found and were able to kind of develop and start to bring him into being something more than what he was thought of previously. He had career high of 14.5 points per game, shot the three extremely well, gave them plenty of floor spacing. 44% career three-point shooter. That is insanely difficult to do that over the course of a career. But Joe Harris dealt with injuries recently, and so he said, enough. 32 years old, about to turn 33, and he is hanging him up.
Yeah, my guess is, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, but your mid-August is when, if you've been kind of hanging out with your feet up, you're starting to get back in your routine and starting to work out again and starting to get ready for the next season. And I think for Joe Harris, probably started that process, probably not getting more than minimum offers as a free agent. And he probably looked around and said, yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. Maybe he's still got some ankle pain. We know he's had, a host of ankle injuries throughout the last several years. So maybe he was like, I don't want to do it. I don't have it in me anymore. I'm ready to call it. But like you said, I mean, he went from being second round pick with the Cavaliers, who looked like he was done. They traded him in a kind of a salary dump move to the Orlando Magic. When the Magic were kind of not great, they were like, yeah, we don't even want him. Waived him right away to open up a roster spot. And then caught on with the Nets the next year. And it was as the Nets were really starting to rebuild. He played 52 games, stayed pretty healthy, shot pretty well. Then the next 4 years in a row, huge part of those Nets teams that ended up being a lot better than expected, played really well. In 2018-19, 47.4% on 5 3-point attempts per game. 2020-21, 47.5% on over 6 attempts per game. There was a period of time where Joe Harris was absolutely one of the most lethal shooters in the NBA, and just couldn't quite keep it going over the last couple of years. And I think it's always important too for guys to know when they're done, right? To
Yep.
say, I'm done. I don't need to go try to catch on in training camp. That's not to say 2-3 months from now, if Joe Harris is like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good, and he gets back in the gym and he's doing some stuff and feeling good, maybe he catches on with the team later. There's retirements are not binding, especially in his case. He's not retiring while under an active contract. So he's kind of saying, yeah, I'm done, but maybe he does come back. But my guess would be this is probably it. And he moves on to whatever the next phase is going to be
Well,
for him.
and we've talked about this before, but the mental side of ramping up for an NBA season, it's pretty massive. These guys have to put in a lot of work in order to get there, in order to get themselves physically prepared to play an 82 game season. It's certainly not an easy process. And so if Joe Harris is getting to the point where he says, you know what, I'm not enjoying this, or my body's telling me this is it, then by all means, walk away and go do what it is that you want to do. As much as we talk, and rightfully so, glowingly about a guy like Vince Carter, who was able to transition from being a star in the NBA to being a role player and simply stuck around for his love of the game, playing past 40 in order to just continue to mentor young players because he just enjoyed doing it. And that's all well and good. That's not going to be everybody, though. That's not going to be everybody that wants to stick around in the game. And so knowing when to get out is a really important thing. And if Joe Harris says, look, you know what, this is it, this is the end, then then good for him, and an incredible career that he was able to salvage. Because you're right, Keith, there was a point where it looked like it may be done for him, and then he wound up becoming, like you said, one of the most lethal three-point shooters in the NBA for a period of time there. So congratulations on a great career. If this is it for Joe Harris, if we do see him again, hopefully he's 100% healthy. But for the time being, looks like Joe Harris is stepping away and is done with the NBA.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
How much money do you think Joe Harris made in career earnings throughout the course of his career?
I know he got that big deal. I'm going to say 65 million.
91.7.
Ooh, I shortchanged him. Yeah, I mean, that's like, hey, I can do what I wanted to do kind of money over the course of a career, right? Like that's part of this too. You've made enough money, you can say, you know what, I made 90 million bucks over the course of my career. Now that's over, a 10-year period or whatever, but still, he made that money that he doesn't have to play if he doesn't want to play at this point.
Yep. So. Yeah, exactly. His family is, I don't know if he has kids or not, but if he does, his kids and his kids' kids, they're all taken care of for life. So, good for him. And
right. Yep.
Be curious to see if he pops up somewhere as a coach or stays around the game, or if he just says, no, I'm good. No, I'm just moving on.
All right, let's jump over to the Blazers, who are leaving their regional sports network. So we've been talking about this, about TV rights and how all of this is shaken out. Obviously, next season, not this coming season, but next season, we're going to have like the Amazon stuff coming in. I mean, I guess we'll see where all the legal stuff heads there, but the new TV deal will be coming into place. But the Blazers leaving their regional sports network, what happens here at this point with the Blazers, and how are Blazers fans going to catch their games?
Yeah, so they were on Root Sports, which is like a Northeast regional sports network, or Northwest rather, regional sports network. They're leaving. Some of the report, they did not announce anything other than they were leaving. The team didn't. But some of the reporting from like Sean Hyken and others who are closer to the Portland market have said, sounds like they're going the same model as the Jazz and the Suns and going to do an over-the-air partner, which will mean people can get their games that way. If you're a Blazers fan in, I don't know, Orlando, where I live, or in Boston, or in LA, you'll still be able to see them on League Pass because the NBA requires games are made unless they are a true nationally televised game. And yes, NBA TV counts as nationally televised. But unless it's a nationally televised game, they have to be made available on League Pass. And then with the other caveat of there are blackout restrictions and all that. Just know those are not the NBA's rules. I think they would prefer there weren't blackout restrictions, but that's how it works in the world of sports and television. So they're going to go over the air. Now, we saw with both the Jazz and the Suns, Those deals weren't quite as lucrative, which does impact not only the Blazers, but the overall pot of money that comes into the NBA. So this is just an evolving situation. There was a belief, the Suns talked about it, of, hey, if we can turn more people into Suns fans, that's better for us long term than getting a couple extra million a year in our
Mhm.
TV contract. And that's probably the correct way of thinking. You make the game more available to more people. That's really good to see. It is funny. I was talking about this with a friend of mine. How many people even have, though, a way to get it over the air television, like even have an antenna to pick it up if they don't already have those channels through a cable or streaming provider? That kind of, was interesting to me. I don't really know how that works, but hey, you're making it available to people. That's generally a good thing. So yeah, we're going to see this going to continue to evolve as these things happen. There were 6 teams, I think, within the Bally Sports Group that were mentioned as they may drop their broadcast too. So we're going to see what happens with that.
Yeah, in general, I believe that you should make games as available as you can, that you want more people watching your product, and I think blackouts are a big problem for
Sure.
basketball fans right now. We see it in other sports as well. You know, there's certain in certain parts of the country, you can find yourself blacked out for 3 teams, for 4 teams, because you're unfortunately live just a little bit too close to a few different regions. I don't think they should be in the business of making it more difficult to watch these games. I think the more eyeballs
Completely
you
agree.
have on a game, the better. But that's of course coming at it from a fan perspective. TV networks, they want your money. They want you to have to pay to watch that game, and so there's that disconnect there. I do hope still someday we'll get there, a utopia where all of the games are in one spot with no blackouts. I'm talking MLS style with what they've done with Apple. Watch all the games in one place, no blackouts, everything on. I go to one location and I can access every single game. That is the dream, Keith. I don't know if we're ever going to get that, because now what we're getting is the streaming companies are starting to partner up, and it's becoming almost like cable all over again. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever get there, but that's the dream.
Yeah, I mean the running joke is right. We're gonna get all these streaming companies are all gonna come together and say, "Hey, what you actually do is you run this line from the street to your house, and it runs into this piece of hardware that you put in your family room, and that's how you get it." And it's like, oh, so like you're running a cable into a cable box? Like, oh man, what a unique thing, right? It's what old is new again. It's funny coming out of corporate America, like I did. We used to do these restructures at Disney all the time. And it'd be like, hey, we're going to restructure to provide, client support this way. It'd be like, okay, so like we did like 4 years ago. And then they're going to be like, yeah, but this time it's going to be really different. And then within 2 or 3 years, it'd be, all right, guys, we're going to restructure to provide client support this way. Oh, so like we were 2 or 3 years ago before we went back to this. It's like what's old is new again all the time. And that's going to be how it goes. Cause I have friends who were like, cutting the cord. And now they're like, man, I should have stayed with cable. I have like 7 streamers and I pay more than I
Yeah.
was, paying for cable. And it's just, yeah, all of it's gotten a little out of control. And, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm with you on that one specifically for the NBA. I would love to be able to buy League Pass. And even if League Pass was a little more expensive, if it included all the national games too. Like
Yes.
you could just,
Yeah.
see all that rather than like, all right, well, I have to have a service that includes TNT to see their games, or a service that includes like starting not this upcoming season, but the one after. All right, I got to get Peacock to see the games there. I'd love to be able to have League Pass that says, all right, you get everything. Because like for me, it just popped up on my bill. It'll renew next month. League
Yeah.
Pass is only a little over $100. So really, when you think about it, $100 to get almost every game, even though like you get the handful that aren't there, that's pretty good value for me.
And
I
they
would
lowered
even
it
pay,
significantly. It used to be like
yeah, oh,
250.
big time. Yeah. But I'd pay a little bit more if it was like, hey, $150 and you get all the national TV games and there's no blackouts for like Magic games for me. Where I am, like you get them all. Like, all right, let's go. Now I probably wouldn't do it because I already get all those games through other means. But if I didn't, I would think about that. And I know a lot of fans would probably be on that page.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely would be. if you just had one place to go to, I think of when you look at the streaming apps and things like that, like year after this coming season, it's going to be not just like, so I use YouTube TV, but then I've got, the League Pass app and everything, the NBA app, and I access League Pass through it. But then it's going to be, okay, do I want to load, do I need, this game's on tonight, do I need to go load Amazon Prime and go look that way? Is it going to be on YouTube TV somewhere for me? Or do I have to go through the League Pass app? There's just so many different portals to go through. And like you said, that the prices just keep going up on all of these different ones. And now you've got Amazon Prime, you've got Netflix, the classic one, you've got Disney Plus, you've got Hulu, whatever else, Peacock, you've got all that sort of stuff, Paramount, and they all just keep increasing, and we're right back where we started in terms of what we're paying for this stuff. So it's frustrating. I hope that there's a solution at some point, but right now it looks like we've got the system that we've got, and the big corporations are probably just going to continue to push us back towards a cable-esque model because, well, money matters, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything else to add because that's exactly it. It's money matters.
All right, let's talk a bit about what teams are doing right now. So here we are in August. Teams are not just on vacation right now. Teams are not, with Rob Pelinka chilling at Disneyland or something like that. Teams are making moves, and we're seeing Keith like that one. We are seeing some Exhibit 10 deals in particular are starting to pop up. We're seeing that as teams are adding players to their training camp rosters. I've been talking because the Lakers just signed a couple of Exhibit 10 guys. I've been talking a lot about what an Exhibit 10 is. It allows the team to give the player a bonus of up to $75,000 should they get cut after training camp and then sign with the G League club and stay there for a period.
77,500 this season.
Oh, is it? I thought it was 75,000. Okay, so it's up to 77,500. Okay, so even better. And then if they stay there for a period of time, at least 60 days, then they get that bonus. So it's a way for NBA teams to be able to pay a player a little bit more in order to keep them in their system, in the G League, continue to develop them. The player could win a two-way contract or something like that too, off an Exhibit 10. But so you're seeing a lot of those go around right now. Teams are starting to prepare for camp and figure out what all of that's going to look like. A lot of the moves in terms of trades and stuff like that, like teams will still have those conversations, but most of that kind of business, the big free agent moves, like maybe we see some type of resolution here with Isaac Okoro, but other than that, most of the big things have already happened at this point. So now it's a matter of kind of getting everything in order and prepared for training camp to start up. For most teams, it'll be end of September.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned it, right? Teams are in process of filling out their rosters. Filling out your roster used to mean a couple camp guys and off we go, and now it's there. Now, like you said, you've got all these Exhibit 10 guys coming in. Teams will cycle through those too. They may add 3 or 4 of those guys with the idea of, hey, we're going to waive, we're bringing you in, you're on Exhibit 10, but we're going to waive you and then replace you with somebody else because teams are trying to beef up and fill out their G League teams too. This is the first year we're going to have all 30 teams with their own G League team. That's new with the Suns joining the league this year in the G League. So you've got that going on. You have teams that are finalizing their training camp plans and, where are we going? What are we going to look like? Coaching staffs, they're sitting down and starting to say, all right, our roster probably is what it is. How do we want to do this? And then they start right with training camp. How do we want to do our installs? What do we want to do? We want to spend more time on this new offensive concept we're going to do, or we're going to incorporate more zone defense or whatever it is that may be. From the front office side, today is a big day for them because like it is for everybody else, schedule comes out, they start mapping out for like their pro personnel scouts, their advanced scouts. They'll start mapping all that out of where are they going? When are they going to be placed? Where is it going to be? It's huge for like the traveling, like manager, like the George Steinbrenner role from or not George Costanza role from Seinfeld, rather, where he worked for George Steinbrenner, right? He was a traveling secretary. So we booked all the teams travel for a period of time and those kind of things. NBA teams have people who actually do that. So they're going to be sitting down. All right, I got to get this hotel and I got to do this and get these flights. And they're mapping all that out and planning it out. Equipment guys are getting with their peers around, or we're coming in on a back-to-back. So we'll be getting in there at 2 a.m, but I'm going to need to go right to the facility to use your laundry to work stuff out, or can if we get it to you, will you wash it? It's little inside stuff like that. But the other thing the front offices are doing too, college teams are now releasing their schedules. Conference schedules are coming out as well. So they're sitting down with their college scouts and mapping out, all right, this is when we're going to be here. This is when we're going to be there. They love to hit those early season tournaments because you can get 5, 6, 7, 8 teams worth of NBA talent all at once, and you can see them in one place without having to travel all over. And they love that sort of stuff. So that's all the kind of logistical stuff beyond just the, we're trying to fill out the roster, we're trying to figure things out. Of course, there's still trade talks going on. We know there's a handful of guys that are still out there on the trade market, and those are conversations that are happening on a daily basis as well. You're also seeing teams are, hey, we know you can't sign this guy till, or trade this guy till December 15th, when the vast majority of trade restrictions release for guys that were signed over the summer. Hey, if it's not really working out, keep us in mind because we'd love to talk to you about a deal. And you're setting the groundwork for 4 or 5 months from now when you're doing that. So a lot of that is happening for players. The young guys, they're already back in the facilities, working out on a near daily basis, if not every single day, going through stuff. They're in there with members of the coaching staff, members of the conditioning, weight training staff, just all those people. They're in there working on their bodies, working on their games, getting themselves ready. Players coming back from injury are going to be in there every day doing their rehab work and starting to do that. And if it's like, all right, we're done with the true rehab portion of it, now we're advancing to on court, they're starting to do that process. And then in about 2 weeks at the start of September, the veteran guys will start to filter back into the home markets. The ones who don't live there year round will start to come back in sometime in September and get ready to go. The ones who are going to be back and maybe have their kids in school, that's probably like here in Florida, we've already started back to school, but in the Northeast, it's closer to Labor Day. So they're coming more back in around the end of the month. So you've got kind of all these balancing things that are going on with players where they're going to be back. But by the time we hit a month from now, mid-September, everybody is pretty much back in their home market. And they're working out. They're doing those informal pickup games. You may hear in the next week or two about, hey, some player, LeBron famously used to do this all the time, of LeBron's having his informal workouts in Las Vegas or in Hawaii or at his own place in LA or whatever, and players are coming in. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that'll be going on. You're going to start to hear like, hey, this guy who was hurt looks pretty good because we've seen him and we've seen him doing this, or this rookie, man, he didn't look so great at summer league, or look skinny. It looks like he's already added some weight and those kind of things. So a lot more stuff coming. Not that we're going to be here every single day breaking down, all right, this guy looks like he added 5 pounds of muscle. That'll come on training camp day, right?
I was just going to say that
10 to 15 pounds of muscle, but it'll be, but there's still a lot going on. It really doesn't stop. Everybody takes some time off, but there's never a point where like the team padlocks the doors of the facility, close, and everybody leaves for 2 weeks. Somebody is always around doing something.
It is the time of the 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. It's the time of everybody is in the best shape of their lives. We hear all that kind of stuff, more so in the coming few weeks here, that we'll really start hearing all that kind of stuff. So-and-so looks great. This player has dropped weight. This player's done that or whatever. And it's just exciting. You build the buzz for the NBA season, which we are anxiously awaiting. Keith, I look at it because, me, I get more stressed out during August when there isn't a lot of basketball stuff going on than when there is. So when I'm looking at, okay, how much longer do I have until basketball? I just look at until training camp starts. I'm trying to make it to training camp, to that point. And it's not, you look at the calendar, it's a ways away, but it's also not. And NBA teams recognize that too. They're like, man, we've got a lot of stuff to get through here. In addition to the trade talks and all that kind of stuff that fans like to focus on, all the logistical stuff, just in order to have a successful season, all the moving parts behind the scenes, all of that has to get put into place right now. And they have to prepare for all of that. And again, that schedule being released, let's face it, the teams already know what the schedule is. The teams have it right now. I know we're waiting right now. We're just over an hour away from the schedule being released, but the teams know right now what their schedule is. So they are dissecting it probably at this moment. They're going through everything. They're getting their plans set up, figuring out travel, figuring out all that sort of stuff, and getting ready for the coming season. So it's an exciting time in the NBA, and it's even going to become even more so the closer and closer we get to the end of September. And I can't wait. Let's get there.
Yeah, and I'll do a quick shout out for all my friends who work for teams. And it's usually about 2 weeks, right around Labor Day, a little bit after. They'll have like I'll start getting texts from people who'll be like, today was new gear day. Because that's when they get all their like new shorts and t-shirts and shooting shirts and all the stuff, whether it's like the Clippers full rebrand, new logos, all that'll come out, and all those will be available soon enough. What's that?
The cruise line?
The cruise line. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I saw their logo on something that was it was representing the teams, no names, only logos. And it took me a second because I was like, who? And I was like, oh, that's right. That's the Clippers new logo. But
yeah,
I like it better than the old one, which didn't.
Oh, I do too. It'll take some time, but my initial read though is Royal Caribbean.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Something like that. That's my initial read on it. But I would imagine that will dissipate as a few years go by.
Oh yeah, I mean, at least it's nautical themed, right? And it actually looks like something.
It makes sense.
But new gear day will be coming up too, and guys will be like, I have this and that, and it's all kinds of fun stuff there. Because a lot of the people who like, whether they're coaches or just staffers, they live in the team gear. Like that's just all they wear every day.
Yeah.
They wear that to work every day, and then wear it while they're hanging out and all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of funny. Hey, I did want to answer one question from our last video. I think it's good. It was a good question. Magic of Shooting Star 5825 asked, what's the point of having a team option on top of a non-guaranteed year? This is a really good question, and this comes up a lot because a lot of people, you'll hear reporting on this all the time of like team is declining a team option, but it's really non-guaranteed, or they maybe sometimes there is an option. And yes, as he asked, there is sometimes team options on top of a non-guarantee. So what happens here is with a team option, all team options have to be decided at the very latest by June 29th. Sometimes they have dates that are earlier, but all options need to be decided by June 29th because you need to know if players are free agent or not, right? And that happens on the 1st, and you can't take it all the way through the 30th. So that's part one. That's what makes them a little bit different. Part two is, and you more normally see these on second round pick deals. And this was like Nikola Jokic was a famous example. Jalen Brunson was another famous example, but in the other way, where sometimes what you'll do is you'll decline the team option, which will make the player a restricted free agent.
Right.
Then you have control, rather than Jalen Brunson played out his whole contract, went in unrestricted free agency, and there was nothing Dallas could do. When he said, I want to go to the Knicks for this much money, they didn't even have match rights because he was unrestricted. Whereas in Jokic's case, they declined the team option. Jokic becomes a free agent, but he's restricted. So everybody's like, I'm not even going to take a run at him because they're going to match any deal he could get. So there's another piece. And then a non-guarantee, in order to, in effect, rid yourself of the contract, you have to waive the player. But you waive the player and move on. But you can do all sorts of things with non-guarantees. And there's a ton of them. You could go scroll through almost every team page on SpotTrack. Somebody has a non-guarantee. And they all have different dates attached to them, where it might be, it triggers for X of half the contract on opening night. And other ones comes fully guaranteed on opening night. Those will run all the way until it's really January 7th. If you're not waived by then, contract's fully guaranteed for the year. So that gives you more time to decide where a team option. You have that. When you put one on top, it's generally just that. You give yourself a little extra, piece where it's like, we're not totally sure, but all right, let's pick up the team option. Now he becomes non-guaranteed and we can play it out throughout the course of the year. And then every once in a while, we see one. Josh Hart had one of these where he had a player option on a non-guaranteed contract, which is like the closest thing we can get in the NBA to the mutual options in Major League Baseball, where both sides need to agree. I'm on it. And what happened there is that if it turned out, it was like, I'm going to pick it up. Davis Bertans, great example, this summer had a player option on a partially guaranteed deal. He picked up his player option. He was partially guaranteed for $5 million, and the Hornets waived him to create cap space and get the $17 million. Otherwise, he would have been owed off their books. So just wanted to answer that question, do a little educational moment here at the end of the show.
No, that was really good because that is, and I believe it was Svi Mikhailuk is one who has that situation, if I'm remembering correctly, that has the team
Yep.
option and the non-guaranteed. So
Kyle Filipowski does.
Philip, does Mikhailuk not?
Yeah,
Am I misremembering that?
Let me check on Mikhailuk. He may. You might be right on that.
Okay, but so Filipowski has it, and he may be the one because I know that did come up. Maybe I just have Svi.
Yeah,
on the
Svi
brain.
does too.
He does too. Okay, so
now
so
that's
again,
a great
just gives you
example
more
though.
time.
On the same team, Filipowski, if let's say he pops and he's awesome,
Yeah.
they will decline that in 27, make him a restricted free agent and have full control over re-signing him. Mikhailuk's already got enough NBA experience. He's passed for free agency time. So that's kind of where that part comes into.
Okay. So it just gives the team that much more, as much flexibility as possible, really, that you're baking into that contract by making it so you can pick up a non-guaranteed the year. You could pick the guy out, you could pick up the option in June, and then in September, the guy shows up to camp and you're like, oh no, never mind, and waive him. And then off you go. And that's it. And you're out of the contract. So again, it just bakes in about as much flexibility as you can in the contract. All right. Well, 1 hour till the full schedule officially releases as we're finishing this recording. So by the time this is out, we'll be probably moments away from the schedule releasing. Can't wait. I'm going to go live over on Lakers Nation when the schedule comes out and break down the Lakers schedule. And then tomorrow, Keith and I will go live and we will talk about some of our biggest games on the NBA calendar. I can't wait. Exciting day. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.